I just want to note, Terry Cross is here on time. I just want. Yes, yes. Don't expect it every week. Okay, good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Flint. My name is Chris Monk, and I'll be your worship associate this morning. Thank you for coming. I know this is a holiday weekend, and it feels like a good reason to take the day off or whatever, but I'm really glad that you came, and we've got a really good speaker that's going to speak to us in a little bit. Ray is going to explain about your cell phone and the YouTube channel.
Hello, everybody. This is impromptu and unpracticed. We broadcast on YouTube. We stream on YouTube our service every Sunday. And I am a firm believer that our services are something that there are people out there would really enjoy finding them. So how do we help them find us? YouTube has an evil algorithm. Or actually, have you ever heard of the Norse god Loki? The trickster god? Well, the algorithms are Loki. They're tricksters. But how do we get the trickster to do something for us? So, first of all, if you're in service and you're so inclined, turn the volume off, but go to YouTube and turn it on. Really? Yep, but turn the volume off. I'll show you in a minute. And then leave the service running because that bumps up our numbers, which helps the algorithm realize this is important. Interact with the people who say hello there, because we have congregants like Dave and Wynn, people we all know, Ame, that are out there, people we know who can't always come in, so they watch remotely and they see your comments, so say hello. And then later in the week, I know this is a big ask, but later in the week, if you would turn it on, that's another view. But also importantly is hit the like button and then share it with somebody even if they don't want it, or your spouse or your friends. So any interaction you have with the YouTube channel tells the algorithm this is interesting, and it'll show up in other people's feeds who might find the messages we have, like today's message, uplifting, exciting, give them faith in humanity. So if you would, play with your phones.
All right, thank you, Ray. I don't know how to play with it. I knew I wasn't going to be able to explain all that. So, all right, you have announcements on the back of your order of service. I'm not going to go over them today. And your e-update also will explain. I have one announcement I'm going to make. The Genesee County Commissioners will not be considering a pride resolution. It did not move out of committee, so it will not be on the agenda nor open for public comment. So just want you to know that. Other thing is, for people who would like to get our e-update, this green card in your seat back, put your name and your email and set it on the table in the back. And we have a really good email newsletter that goes out every week. If you'd like to know more about Unitarian Universalism and this congregation, our ministers, Reverend Lynn and Jerry will be back next week. Also, you can go to our website at uuflint.org. I want to thank Sue Owen Kinsey. She put this entire service together by herself today. So that's, yes. And I just thought to add, gonna protest down on the Peace Triangle from 1 to 2 today and every week. So if you can make it, go down there on the corner of Linden and Ballinger And, okay, Miller and Ballinger. All right. It's going to be down there. And you can park here and just walk down. Everybody can't do it every week. I can't do it this week. I was there last week. So, you know, I plan to be there next week. So, I mean, we know everybody can't make it every week. Yes. All right. I want to give a short introduction to our speaker, Malcolm Cottle. He said it's like bottle Cottle. I said I could remember that. He received his bachelor's degree from Alma, did postgraduate work at Fleming College, and received a master's in public administration from U of M Flint. He has been an active part of Flint. His work history includes a position at Ruth Mott Foundation, in addition to his current position as a curator at the Sloan Museum. And he'll say something more about himself when he comes up here in a little bit. All right, this is a Memorial Day service. So tomorrow is a special day, originally called Decoration Day. In 1868, Major General John A. Logan, who led the Grand Army of the Republic, an organization of Union veterans, established Decoration Day as a time for the nation to mark the graves of the war dead with flowers. That year, Arlington National Cemetery hosted the first original national commemoration. It was not a day to go shopping. It was a day to remember those members of the armed forces who gave their lives so that others could enjoy the benefits of freedom. It was to acknowledge the sacrifices of the families they left behind. It was a time to decorate the graves and remember to give thanks for their sacrifices. At this time, I would like to acknowledge the Gold Star family of Staff Sergeant Adrian James Ingram, who was killed in action August 25th, 1966 in Vietnam. His daughter Annie Ingram is a member of this congregation. We'd like to remember, this Memorial Day is to remember those who died in battle, but we also want to pay tribute to some who were able to come back. John, would you check that out, please? Who's pounding? It's one of the mics?
Yeah, it's one of the mics.
Oh, all right. Okay, for those who went to war but came back, Dr. Van Winkle, Danny Tipton, James Newtown, Todd Barcy, and any others that we cannot name. chalice lighting. You are welcome here no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, no matter what your background. You are welcome here to join us as we proclaim worth in our spiritual journeys. You are welcome to join us as we sing songs that uplift our very beings. You are welcome to join us in community as we learn, live, and love together. All are welcome as we worship that which gives our each meaning and value. No matter what you call this building, this hour, or this gathering of people, we worship as one body, illuminated by the light of the chalice. Please join me in reciting our covenant, recognizing the richness of diversity, the beauty and wonder of shared worship, and the transforming power of love and service. We gather as a sacred, intentional community to freely seek knowledge and truth, to celebrate the fullness of life, and by our actions to increase goodness and justice. Our opening words are Ode to Memorial Day by Paul Laurence Dunbar. Done are the toils and the wearisome marches. Done is the summons of bugle and drum. Softly and sweetly the sky overarches, sheltering a land where rebellion is done. Dark were the days of the country's derangement. Sad were the hours when the conflict was on. But through the gloom of fraternal estrangement, God sent his light, and we welcomed the dawn. O'er the expanse of our mighty dominions, sweeping away to the uttermost parts, peace, the wide winging on untiring pinions, bringeth her message of joy to our hearts. Ah, but this joy which our minds cannot measure, what did it cost for our fathers to gain? Bought at the price of the heart's dearest treasure, born out of travail and sorrow and pain. Born in the battle where fleet death was flying, stain was saved, stroke bloody and fell. Born where the heroes and martyrs were dying, torn by the fury of bullet and shell. Ah, but the day is past, silent the rattle and the confusion that followed the fight. Peace to the heroes who died in the battle, martyrs to truth and the crowning of right. Out of the blood of a conflict fraternal, out of the dust and dimness of death, burst into blossoms of glory eternal, flowers that sweeten the world with their breath, flowers of charity, peace, and devotion, bloom in the hearts that are empty of strife. Love is the boundless and broad as the ocean, leaps into beauty and fullness of life. So with the singing peons and chorals, and with the flag flashing high in the sky, place on the graves of our heroes the laurels, which their unfaltering valor has won.
That the slaves might be free. John Brown died that the slaves might be free. John Brown died that the slaves might be free. His soul goes marching on. He's gone to be a soldier in the army of the Lord. He's gone to be a soldier in the army of the Lord. He's gone to be a soldier in the army of the Lord. His soul goes marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His soul goes marching on.
There has always been differing views on going to war. The Civil War, during the Civil War, 26% of all men in Michigan fought for the North. And the fort of Mackinac was used as a prison for Confederate sympathizers. We are coming into our time of meditation, but before we get there, I would like to read Where the Poppies Grow. I walked in Flanders fields today, the crosses all in road array, and heard the pain of senseless dead. The poppies grow inside my head, each one a soldier where they lay. I saw them fight, alive and well, before the fateful days they fell. The ones who once were loved and loved, before they lay where poppies grow. The torch they handed off still burns, and ever faithfully it yearns to lead on as we fight our foe, preserving weal and facing woe, beyond the field where poppies grow. We will now have a moment of silence, and when Dan starts to play the music, you can light a candle up here at the front or in the back. And if you would like to write what your joy or concern is, there are books in the back that you can write that in, and it will go into next week's e-update. war is not just between nations or states. It can be a fight for dominance or equality. There is class war, gender war, race war, religious war. One that Flint is tied to was the war between workers versus owners, the sit-down strike.
I packed my last guitar away and started driving home. My head was full of songs and smoking while I drove alone. What made me turn down Chevrolet, I guess I'll never know. At 1 a.m. the place was lit with amber streetlight glow. Is this the place where brave men stood at corporation power and yelled to the winds, the hell with you, this is the workers' hour? Simple men with work-worn hands and lives not worth a damn formed a line to live or die once the fight began. Is there a truer heart today than those who took a stand? In 1937, cold, the sit-down strike would end. They left their wives and babies alone to face uncertainty, and what they earned while spirits burned was passed today to me.
No. World War II. Again, the world is divided. Leaders of nations, each believing they are right. Michigan, too, was divided, with the vast majority siding with allies. But Father Conlin and Henry Ford being adamant that U.S. should stay out of the fight.
Don't sit under the apple tree with anyone else but me. Anyone else but me. Anyone else but me. No, no, no. Don't sit under the apple tree with anyone else but me till I come marching home. Don't go walking down Lover's Lane with anyone else but me. Anyone else but me. Anyone else but me. No, no, no. Don't go walking down Lover's Lane with anyone else but me till I come marching home. I just got word from a guy who heard from the guy next door to me. The girl he loves to pet, and she fits you to a T. So don't sit under the apple tree with anyone else but me till I come marching. I come marching. I come marching home.
No. Please don't clap. Korean War. Many of us have heard stories of Korea from Dr. Van. It is considered the forgotten war, coming so soon after the end of World War II. But the World War country again sent the young across the sea to fight in a foreign land.
Through early morning fog I see visions of the things to be, the pains that are withheld from me. I realize and I can see the game of life is hard to play. I'm gonna lose it anyway. The losing card I'll someday lay. And and this is all I'll have to say, that suicide is painless. It brings on many changes, and I can take or leave it if I please. I can take or leave it if I please.
Vietnam War. This is called the TV war because it was in our homes every night. It divided families, neighborhoods, this country. The inequality of the draft was evident. This is not to diminish the sacrifices of those that served and the families left behind, but those that demonstrated against the decision made by leaders who were not paying the price of these wars. It is not to say all war is wrong and we should never fight, but before we do, we need to evaluate the cost and ask ourselves, is this a justified war or just someone's ego getting hurt?
Come on, all you big strong men. Uncle Sam needs your help again. He's got himself in a terrible jam way down yonder in Vietnam. So put down the books and pick up a gun. We're gonna have a whole lot of fun. And it's 1, 2, 3. What are we fighting for? Don't ask me, I don't give a damn. Next stop is Vietnam. And it's 5, 6, 7. Open up pearly gates. Well, there ain't no time to wonder why. Whoopee, we're all gonna die. Come on, Wall Street, don't be slow. Oh man, this war's a go-go. There's a lot of good money to be made by supplying the army with the tools of our trade. Just hope and pray that if they drop the bomb, they drop it on the Viet Cong. And it's 1, 2, 3. What are we fighting for? Don't ask me, I don't give a damn. Next stop is Vietnam. And it's 5, 6, 7. Open up the pearly gates. Well, there ain't no time to wonder why. Whoopee, we're all gonna die.
Malcolm, you're up.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, well, thank you so much. All right, so my name is Malcolm Cottle, and I have the privilege of serving as the curator of collections for the Sloan Museum of Discovery. My role is to preserve, steward, and share the incredible history and artifacts of Flint and Genesee County. Today, I've been invited to speak with you about the morality of war and its intersection with our community. Firstly, I am a historian. I am not a philosopher, so my analysis today for you is rooted in historical perspective. Although I consider myself a philosophical individual, I claim no expertise in these fields. So if you ask me what Kant thinks of all of this, I don't know. My hope with this presentation is to present you with case studies from our past that may inform you well enough to draw your own conclusions and continue this discussion through the day and perhaps the years to come. The morality of war is a perennial question that has haunted humanity for centuries. Every conflict, regardless of its perceived justification, inflicts immense suffering and destruction, raising profound moral and ethical dilemmas. To delve deeper into the complexities of war's morality, we today will examine 4 pivotal conflicts in the United States history: the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, World War I, and World War II, and their direct impact on our community here in Flint, Michigan. Yes. Okay. Sorry. Force of habit. So let us begin with the American Revolutionary War. The justification for this war was that the American Revolution was a war for independence, fueled by the colonists' belief that their rights as Englishmen were being violated by the British Crown. The rallying cry of no taxation without representation encapsulates their grievances. My apologies.
I'm sorry.
Oh, good.
I'm so sorry.
You're completely fine. Encapsulates their grievances against what they perceived was an unjust and oppressive policies. If we examine the moral arguments for this war, first was self-determination. The colonists argued that they had the right to govern themselves and determine their own destiny, free from the control of a distant and unresponsive monarchy. There was also the natural rights argument. The revolution was also grounded in the Enlightenment ideals of natural rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The colonists believed that these rights were being denied by the British government and owed to them as rights in the same way we are owed fresh water and fresh air. Now, if we examine the moral arguments against this war, first and foremost is loyalty to the crown. From the British perspective, the colonist rebellion was an act of treason against their rightful sovereignty. Loyalty to the crown was considered a moral obligation, and the rebellion was seen as a violation of that duty. Moreover, the crown believed that they had funded the migration of settlers from the European continent, with continued support and security over the years. The French and Indian War was not even a distant memory, and the cost of that war was very much informing the sentiments of the British Crown in this so-called War of Independence. It felt like a betrayal and a serious disruption to the social and political norms of the time. There was also the violence and disruption that this war caused. The revolution led to violence, disruption, and the displacement of loyalists. The war raises questions about the morality of using force to achieve political goals, which would in many ways be a lasting effect on the American psyche. Since the colonists did not get what they wanted, they simply took it by force. If we look at the Flint connection, now, although Flint was not a major settlement during the Revolution, the war's ideals of liberty, self-governance, and resistance to oppression would profoundly shape its future and development. These principles would resonate with Flint's later growth as an industrial center and its residents' strong sense of independence and self-reliance. The city's history would be intertwined with the pursuit of economic and social freedom, reflecting the revolutionary spirit that birthed the nation. Let's turn our attention now to the Civil War. The justification of the Civil War was a brutal conflict fought over the issue of slavery and states' rights. The Union sought to preserve the nation and abolish slavery, while the Confederacy fought to establish its autonomy and maintain the institution of slavery. If we examine these moral arguments for the Union, first and foremost is the abolition of slavery. The Union's fight to end slavery was a moral imperative, as it sought to uphold fundamental principles of human rights and equality, touted by the War of Independence we just discussed. Slavery was an abhorrent institution that denied basic human dignity, and its abolition was essential for the nation's moral and political integrity. It is important to remember that freedom from the tyrannical England was paramount in 1776, yet England abolished slavery in 1833, and the United States was now fighting a war over slavery in 1861. There was also the preservation of the Union. The Union sought to preserve the nation and uphold the principles of democracy and federalism. Secession was seen as a threat to the nation's unity and a rejection of the democratic process. America as we know it now holds much of its power in the unity of diverse regions, climates, and natural resources. This was under serious threat by the Civil War. There are limited moral arguments that we can also examine on the Confederacy side. First and foremost was the claim of states' rights. The Confederacy argued that states had the right to secede from the Union and determine their own destiny. They believed that the federal government had overstepped its bounds and that the secession was a legitimate response to perceived tyranny. The states' rights argument has been heavily contested by historians, as it has been used in an attempt to downplay the role of slavery, that the right to slavery was owed to the southern states. There's also the argument that there was a defense of a way of life. Many Southerners saw that the war as a defense of their way of life, which was deeply intertwined with the institution of slavery. They feared that abolition would lead to economic ruin and social upheaval, despite the toll it took on those enslaved. If we look at the Flint connection for the Civil War, Flint played an active role in the Civil War, contributing soldiers to the Union Army and supporting the cause of abolition. The war's impact on industry and society also shaped Flint's trajectory. The demand for resources and the shift in the industrial focus during the war laid the groundwork for Flint's later emergence as a major industrial center. The war also fostered a sense of national unity and purpose amongst Flint citizens, who recognized the importance of fighting for a common cause. After the war, following the Reconstruction era and the implementation of Jim Crow laws, Flint saw significant black migration in the early 20th century, and black families moved up here for well-paying jobs with the emerging General Motors. Looking at World War I, the general justification of World War I was a global conflict triggered by a complex web of alliances stemming from nationalism, imperialism, and militarism. The United States entered the war in 1917, citing Germany's unrestricted submarine warfare and its threat to democracy. If we look at these moral justifications, first and foremost, again, was defense of democracy. The U.S. government framed its involvement in the war as a defense of democracy and freedom against the autocratic regimes of Germany and its allies. There was also the protection of what was called neutral rights. The U.S. argued that it had a moral obligation to protect neutral rights and freedoms of navigating the high seas, which were being violated by German submarine attacks, also culminating in the sinking of the Lusitania. On the flip side, there were several arguments for American isolationism. Many Americans believed that the U.S. should stay out of European conflicts and focus on its own domestic affairs. They argued that the involvement in the war would lead to unnecessary bloodshed and economic hardship. It is during this time that we first hear the phrase America first as a push for isolationism. Bless you. There's also questionable motives for the U.S.'s late involvement in World War I. Some critics argue that the U.S.'s motives for entering the war were not entirely altruistic, and the economic and geopolitical interests also played a role. The U.S. certainly bolstered its military and profited greatly from the war through military spending, arms sales, and establishing a strong global footprint. Here, locally, Flint's burgeoning automotive industry played a crucial role in the war effort, shifting its production to military vehicles and equipment. Many Flint residents served in the armed forces, and the war accelerated in the city's industrial growth and transformation. The war also brought social and demographic changes in Flint, as women entered the workforce in large numbers and African Americans migrated to the city once again to find jobs in the booming war industry. Lastly, we'll look at World War II, and then we'll draw some thoughts and conclusions. The justification for World War II was that World War II was a war against aggression, totalitarianism, and genocide. The attack on Pearl Harbor and the atrocities of the Holocaust galvanized Americans' support for the war effort. Examining the moral arguments for the Allied involvement is defense against aggression. The Allied powers, including the U.S., argued that they were fighting a defensive war against the aggression of Nazi Germany, Imperial Japan, and their allies. This draws on the moral imperative of kill or be killed. The fight against tyranny and genocide was also paramount. The war was seen as a moral crusade against the tyranny of totalitarian regimes and genocide perpetrated by the Nazis against Jews, Romani people, and other minority groups. Therefore, this was a defensive war for self-preservation and defense of the vulnerable. There are limited moral arguments against the U.S.'s involvement in World War II. First and foremost is pacifism. While a minority view, some pacifists argued against any involvement in the war, advocating for nonviolent resistance and diplomacy. Once again, because of the loss of life during the U.S.'s involvement in World War I, there were significant calls for an America First policy of isolationism, which was organized by the American First Committee, claiming that there was no reason for the U.S. to become involved in another European conflict. There were also some moral compromises. The Allied powers also made some morally questionable decisions during the war, such as the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which raised questions about the limits of justifiable violence even in a war. Historians have argued that the use of the atomic bomb was not solely to end the war, but also for a show of force against the USSR. Flint's connection here once again played a vital role in World War II as part of the arsenal of democracy. The city's automotive plants were converted to produce tanks, planes, and other crucial war materials. Many Flint residents served in the military, and the war had a profound and lasting impact on the city's booming economy, its social fabric, and demographics. The war effort, again, brought an influx of workers to Flint, leading to increased diversity and economic opportunity, but also social tensions and many challenges that would last through the rest of the 20th century. So what conclusions can we draw from these case studies and this analysis? What can we draw from these examples? We could state that war is morally justified when the fight for freedom is at stake. But how do we define freedom? Is the freedom cry of the American colonists the same as the freedom dreamed of by enslaved people? In other words, is political freedom as morally justified as physical freedom? We often ask if the means justify the ends. If war is thrusted on us and we defend ourselves or those that need defending, are we able to justify any means of defense or retaliation? Well, I believe that Hitler and the Third Reich unequivocally needed to be defeated so as not to cause further harm. I do take great pause on whether the use of the atomic bomb was justified in the Pacific Theater. Thus, did we lose the high ground? Can a war be morally just, but the means to win it unjust? Furthermore, can a war be just if the intentions or outcomes are contrary? The United States suffered very large casualties in both world wars, but profited tremendously and raised its global influence after the war across the world. As we previously mentioned the atomic bomb, this was an act that not only ended the war in the Pacific, but sent a direct and intentional message to the world about the military power of the United States, shaping geopolitics for the next 4 decades. The morality of war is complex and nuanced, with issues that have no easy answers. While some wars may be justified on moral grounds, all wars inflict tremendous suffering and raise profound ethical questions. Examining historical conflicts, such as those we've discussed today, can help us better understand the complexities of war and the moral dilemmas it presents. The impact of these wars on communities like Flint highlight the far-reaching consequences of conflict and the importance of striving for peaceful resolutions whenever possible. While war may sometimes be necessary, it should always be a last resort, and its moral implications should never be taken lightly or without question. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Malcolm. Now is our time for generosity. Okay. Now's the time for generosity, right? If you would like to make a donation towards this church, please put it in the basket at the back of this church as you leave. There's a QR code on the back of your order of service, or you can go to our website at uuflint.org and make a donation there. Know that your presence here today is appreciated, that it continues because of the gifts of time, talent, and treasure from members and friends. Now we'll extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Sure, sweet.
No.
Microphones out. Oh, there's not.